Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We're gonna show you how to make a DIY grinder or sharpener for your engraving bits, chisels, knives and such for under 50 bucks.
Here are all the components that will be used for making that grinder. First is a box where everything is going to be mounted in. Second thing, it's a plate where the spindle is going to be mounted for a sharpening disc. This is a diamond disc that will be used for sharpening. This is a spacer to create exactly half-inch height between sharpening fixture and the disc. Spindle housing, it's fabricated from aluminum to hold the spindle. This is a spindle for mounting a diamond disc that goes here. Okay, here are two bearings. Bearing spacer and nut for preloading the bearing. Coupler between spindle and motor, and this is a motor from low-cost blender, so the whole blender is below $20, and it also has buttons for different speed that will be used with that. Here is the 4 spacers for mounting the motor on a plate. We need Loctite 609 green Loctite for cylinder bond to bond the first bearing. Only outside surface of the bearing should be bounded to the housing. Then we have a spacer and the second bearing. Okay, this bearing is free, so it's not bonded to the housing. Only the first bearing is bonded. Okay, spindle goes through that, and then we have a preload nut. So we will preload the bearing, approximately 10 pounds. So it's actually squeezing inner rollers of the bearing, and then once when it is done, we will put a set screw so that it stays there. And then this housing is mounted into the plate with 4 screws. Disc is going on the top of it. From the bottom side, there will be 4 standoffs. Coupler will go on a motor, and it will be mounted like that. And the other side of the coupler will be mounted on a spindle. So this is not to transfer vibration to the plate, so to get a good solid surface for grinding. First bearing, it's glued in a spindle housing, so we're gonna assemble the rest of the spindle. So we have the spacer that is only on outside race. We are putting the second bearing. Now we're installing the spindle. This is a preload nut. You can actually use it without a preload nut. You can apply the glue on an inner race of that second bearing and put some kind of a weight on it like that, and then you put a piece of cylinder that actually pressing this, and you're putting about 10 pounds weight on it. So about 10 pounds would be a good preload for the bearing. This one has a preload nut. There is a set screw, and we are putting small brass pin inside so that we don't damage the thread on a spindle. If you have the set screw with a brass tip or plastic tip, that would be also good. Now we can install the spindle bearing. I'm using button screws because I don't have anti-seize compound, because if you put the stainless steel screws into aluminum, it has a tendency to seize, and because this needs to be replaceable, maybe going to change the bearings or preload or something, I'm using the black oxide screw. So those are half-inch screws. Okay, so there is no deformation in the bearing housing, so the bearings are spinning okay. Next thing, we'll install the spacers for the motor. I'm using stainless steel screws here because this part doesn't have to be disassembled. So we have standoffs for mounting the motor. Okay, so we're gonna add one washer below rubber grommets and one above. I also using black oxide screw so it doesn't seize in aluminum standoff. At this point of time, we're gonna just keep the screw loose and then tight the coupler. Okay, so last thing would be to tighten the screws because there are rubber grommets here. That is also necessary to use Loctite. So this is 1032 screws, and I would recommend using the blue Loctite or purple Loctite so that you can disassemble that. We are fitting this in that case. And then we are putting wood screws. The spacer is going to be somewhere over here, and diamond plate is here, and height between this acrylic piece and the grinding disc, it should be exactly ½ inch. Then you would use your fixture for grinding to grind different angles. Right now I need to install that speed control part on it, and then we're gonna test it. Okay, so here is the finished grinder, actually sharpener for the engraving bits, or you can sharpen some wood chisels or something like that. The spacer is on a position and it's glued on with double side tape. The height, it's about ½ inch. This is how it's supposed to be. Here on the front are the buttons for different speed. Basically, this is how it works. We grind very fast, so we need to be careful not to over-grind them. So let's see if the camera will focus so that you can see finish tip. So I hope you can make it based on these instructions. So it's very inexpensive, probably all the materials, it's less than $50, and you have very fast grinder.